everyone, welcome to this course. My name is Didi and I will be your professor in this quarter. The title of this course is Stakeholder Diversity Issues in Contemporary American Organizations. Some of you may wonder, who are stakeholders? What are the diversity issues? Why do you highlight the word contemporary in the course of the titles? And what are the types of American organizations that we will talk about within this quarter? So in this very first video, I want to clarify the scope of this course. After watching this video, you will have a clear idea on what we are going to do and what we are able to achieve within this quarter. If you are confused about who are stakeholders, what is diversity, let us narrow it down a little bit. Have you ever thought about one or some of these questions? How do different types of social inequality keep perpetuating in American organizations? For instance, why are there fewer female physicists than male physicists in academic sciences? How do immigrants participate in civic engagement? What role does religion play in this process? How should we promote diversity in organizational settings? And why do some well-intended people also reinforce social inequality? If you have ever thought some of these questions, then this course may be a good course for you. This is a primarily sociology course, and sociology as a discipline has its strength and limitation. I do believe that highlighting the strength and also acknowledging the limitation of sociology is really important for us to set up a boundary and to have a clear understanding on what we are able to achieve within this quarter. Sociology as a discipline talks about lots of issues on diversity or lack thereof, but it has its specific focus. Simply put, sociology is good at identifying diversity-related issues in contemporary societies, but not so good at identifying the legacy issues through the historical narratives. In addition, sociologists talk a lot about the reproduction of social inequality, but primarily on a group level, not so much on an individual level. This is because methodologically, sociology as a discipline is good at finding out patterns, but not so good at including the narrative from the so-called outliers. But sociologists recognize this limitation and are working really hard to embrace the perspectives from the so-called outliers. And finally, sociology is a really data-driven discipline. This, to me, is the biggest strength of sociology, but it may also translate into a limitation. So what does it mean for sociology to focus on diversity issues in contemporary societies? For instance, in this course, we will talk about racial and ethnic inequality. We will talk about how racial and ethnic inequality reinforce in different organizational settings, such as faith communities, academic sciences, tech companies, etc. But when we are talking about the intersection between race, ethnicity, and organizations, we are talking about the manifestation of racial and ethnic inequality in our current society, and not so much on how the historical narrative of race and inequality shape our understandings. This does not say that sociologists do not pay any attention on historical narratives. But part of our motivation to understand a little bit about historical narrative is to have a better understanding of the current society, the contemporary society. This is also why the word contemporary is highlighted in the title of this course. That said, if you are one of these people who want to promote diversity or really want to understand the reproduction of social inequality in the current society, then this course may be a good course for you. But if you are one of these people who are really interested in hearing about historical narrative and who are interested in diving deep in historical narratives, then sociology is not so strong at doing this. In addition, When we are talking about diversity and social inequality, we as sociologists talk about diversity and social inequality on a group level and not so much at hearing one specific narrative from one specific individual. Sociologists in general believe in two things. First, we believe that inequality is manifested on the grand level, or more precisely, on the group level. But we also believe that what we have learned about the groups will help us to better understand the individual's experiences. So in the very beginning of this slide, I proposed one question. Why are there fewer female physicists than male physicists in academic sciences? When we talked about the reproduction of social inequality and the lack of diversity within academic sciences, we are talking about how this is happening on the group level, and more precisely, female physicists and male physicists are represented as two groups in my question. We are not so good at hearing one specific narrative from an individual female physicist who is working in a particular university. If you are one of these people who are really interested in diving really deep into one person's narrative, then sociology may not be a good discipline for you, and the discourse may not be a good fit for you. But if you are one of these people who want to know what is happening on the group level and who want to utilize our knowledge on the reproduction of inequality on the group level to better understand individuals' experiences, then sociology will be a really good discipline for you, and a discourse may be a good fit for you. Why do sociologists focus so much on the group level? This is related to a methodological strength as well as limitation of sociology. Simply put, sociology is good at finding out patterns, but not so much about hearing the voices of outliers. So what do I mean by finding out patterns? On the screen, you will see the PDF of a normal distribution. Many sociologists, including me, love normal distribution, partially because of the empirical rule. So according to the empirical rule, 68% of cases will be situated in one standard deviation around the mean. 95% of cases will be situated in two standard deviations around mean, and 99.7% of cases will be situated in three standard deviations around mean. Sociologists are strong at finding out patterns. In some cases, we will be able to find out the experiences of people who are situated in two standard deviations around mean. But we also know that the society is very complex. So in most of the cases, sociologists are not able to identify what is happening among 68% of people within our population. We are only able to identify the pattern that emerged from, let's say, 34% of people, or even a smaller portion of the people in our population. So some of you may wonder, will that be problematic for sociology to only focus on what is happening around the mean? What about the voices of these people who are not represented as the majority, whose experiences are not situated in one or two standard deviations around mean? So this is why I said that sociologists are not so good at hearing the narratives of the so-called outliers. But we are working really hard on it. And what most sociologists will do is that if we realize some people's voices, their experience, their perspectives are not represented in the pattern that we have identified in the previous studies, then we focus on this small group of people, perceive them as a subpopulation or a different population, draw an additional normal distribution, and finally utilize the strength of sociological methods to find out the patterns. Within this subpopulation, we may be able to identify the 95% of the cases, or even a smaller portion of the cases, 68% of the subpopulation. Then there are people's voices within the subpopulation we have not included in the sociological studies. Then other sociologists may focus on this group of people, draw a normal distribution, utilize the strength of sociological methods, and find out a different pattern. And this is how sociology as a discipline keep progressing. And finally, sociology is a very data-driven discipline. What does it mean for sociology to be a data-driven discipline to our course? This means that when you're submitting assignments, when you're doing the reflection on the civic engagement or the experiential learning, I may consistently and constantly ask you, what is your data? What is your evidence? Why do you utilize the data? What do you think are the strengths of this data? Have you ever considered utilizing a different types of data? Sociologists take a pretty inclusive view on what data is. And the two most commonly utilized data is perception-based data, so what we call as interview data, or some numerical type of data like survey data or measurement on socioeconomic status. But regardless of what types of data that sociologists are planning to utilize, we are a data-driven discipline. I personally think this is a huge strength of sociology because we are able to make some data-driven conclusions. But this is also a huge limitation of sociology. Our ability to draw a conclusion is really constrained by the availability of data. This means, in some scenarios, sociologists are not able to propose a really pioneer way to understand the operation of the society or the reproduction of social inequality. What we are able to do is to propose a data-driven conclusion that may leave policy implications to promote diversity and eliminate social inequality. This is a strength as well as limitation of sociology. And this course in particular is an ELSJ course. And in the spring 2020, all of our ELSJ component will be translated online. So you will have two choices to do the community engagement. One choice is that you can analyze the stakeholders' website and propose actionable recommendations that may serve our community partners. The other choice is that you may do a 3-hour virtual online volunteer work and write a reflection based on your volunteer work. In the next video, I will talk more about these logistical issues and walk you through the syllabus. And at this moment, I would love to invite you to pause this video, reflect on what I said about the scope of video, especially the scope of the course, especially the strength and the limitation of sociology, and think what are some of the things that you are the most passionate about, and is this course the best fit for you? Although my professional background is in sociology and I love sociology, I recognize that the limitations of sociology is not an inherent limitation in our human knowledge. There are some other disciplines that are doing a much better job in the area that sociologists are not so good at doing. For instance, history as a discipline is really good at diving into the historical narratives, and which is a huge limitation of sociology. That said, after watching this video, I really hope that most or all of you will decide to stay in this course. But I also completely understand that if you are one of these people who are interested in historical narratives, who are more passionate about hearing the story of one specific individual, or who are more passionate about proposing some pioneer ways to understand the operation of the society without the constraints of the data, maybe this course is not a good fit for you, but I know that there are other courses offered by faculty members affiliated with other departments at Santa Clara University who are doing a much better job in the area that sociologists are not so good at doing. If you decide to switch to another course, although I'm sad to see you go, I am also happy to refer you to other resources. And for these of you who decide to stay in this course, please continue to watch the next video. And in the next video, I will talk about the logistical issues, walk you through the syllabus as well as the different pages and tools on Camino to help you to have a more enjoyable and also robust learning experience.